Je vois bien qu'actuellement, beaucoup de Québécois souhaitent d'abord du changement, puis entre autres, un changement de premier ministre. Pour le bien de mon parti et surtout pour le bien du Québec, j'annonce aujourd'hui que je vais quitter mon poste de premier ministre du Québec. Je vais rester en place le temps que mon parti désigne un remplaçant ou une remplaçante.
For the good of the party, for the good of the province, François Legault announcing his resignation just about a half an hour ago. Welcome back to the Elias Makos Show and coverage of this breaking news story at this hour that François Legault will resign as Quebec Premier. Raphaël Melançon from Trafalgar Strategies, president and founder over there, and Victor Henriquez, public affairs and crisis management specialist at Public Strategy and Conseil, have stuck around here so we can further analyze what we heard from the Premier as he spoke to Quebecers. First things first, I want to ask you, Raphaël, as you watched the Premier deliver his remarks, what stuck out in your mind from what he had to say?
Well, we heard it from the clip we just heard at the beginning of this segment. He wants the next election because he started by mentioning that Quebec is facing major challenges. He said we need to redesign our economy in the face of the threats coming from the United States. He also talked about stopping the decline of the French language, particularly in Montreal. So these were the two main challenges he mentioned. And then he came and said, I want the next election to be about those big challenges we're facing and not about the will for change. So for the good of his party, but most of all for the good of Quebec, he decided to resign. He came to the conclusion that he could no longer lead the CQ into the next election. And as you mentioned, he will remain in office until the election of his successor as leader of the CQ. So he was accompanied there by his right-hand man, Martin Koskinen, who's been a close collaborator for many years, and his wife, Isabelle Bray, was also at his side. He talked for a very long time. That was a long press conference, to be honest with you. He talked in length about his legacy, how proud he was about the things he and his government have achieved. And he appeared, although very serene, of course, with that decision, but he appeared like someone who felt the need to defend his track record to me.
Yeah, and that's it. I think he is concerned about his legacy there. Victor, let me ask you, what stuck out from you from what we heard from the Premier?
The fact that he don't want the next election to be about the will for change. And that's the main reason why he's leaving. He knows by the numbers and by what he's been through the last months that as long as he stays there, the subjects he wants the next election to be about won't be the priority. And it's something that politicians have to note now. When there's a will for change, you cannot beat it. Justin Trudeau got to the same conclusion. François Legault is getting to that conclusion too. There's a point where after 7 or 8 years, or even a little bit more, people want to change the face of Premier. And it's normal that people are tired of seeing the same speeches, of looking to the same faces and hearing the same messages, and they need some change. And now the question is going to be, is the CAQ going to be able to find a new leader who's going to be able to show change? Because they can do a choice, for example, if they choose someone like Simon-Jolin Barrette or even Geneviève Guilbeault, all Quebecers are going to feel like it's a real change. Or not, and that's what is going to happen in the next months, and we're going to see if they have a chance for the next election or not.
What's the reset required for the CAQ? I'm sorry, Raphaël, if there's something you wanted to get right off the top.
I just want to mention we have some new information that's coming from Alain Laforêt at TVA. So he talked to Brigitte Legault, who's the Director General of the CAQ. So things are going to go pretty fast over there. The board of the CAQ is meeting tonight virtually to discuss what's coming up. They want to have a leadership race, a very swift leadership race, so that they have a new leader at least 6 months before the next general election. So that means that by April, the CQ should be electing their new leader.
So sometime after Charles Milliard defeats Mario Roy, we'll have another race.
Yes, but there's something else also. Let's not forget we have a by-election that's coming up in Chicoutimi there. So will the CQ, so that has to be launched to the latest in March. So will they wait? Will they have a very swift leadership race? That's almost impossible before the by-election in Chicoutimi, so that they have a new leader for that by-election, or will Legault be leading the CAQ in Chicoutimi still and have a leadership race on the side in parallel at the same time?
It's very true, right? Victor?
Elias, I'm pretty sure that, and from my understanding, the best thing for the CAQ would be to start the by-election as soon as possible, to make sure that François Legault goes through that by-election. It doesn't matter if you lose or you win that by-election, and you make the change after that by-election. You don't want that by-election to be the first step of a new leader. So for me, they're going to start the by-election within the next maybe 2 weeks, and they're going to have the vote before they get into the leadership campaign at the CAQ.
I wonder what type of reset is needed for the CAQ. It's not lost on me that in those parting remarks from Legault, he mentioned immigration, he mentioned the French language. Some people would argue that there has to be a reset, at least a bit on that front. Of course, you got a competitor, the Parti Québécois, that seems to own much of that, right? So, let me take of both of you here on that. What type of reset does the CAQ need to maybe get back to some of its founding values, Raphaël?
Well, I'm always looking at what happened in the past year on the federal side, and what the Liberals chose to do is pick an outsider as their leader. So that might be the best option for the CQ. If they choose someone who's from within the ranks currently of the CQ, in the minds of a lot of Quebec voters, that might not really embody the change that this party needs to say, oh, we're a new party now. We are back on track. You have a brand new option on the table. It's not the PQ. If you don't want the PQ, if you don't want the Liberals, if you don't want the Quebec Conservatives, then the CQ might be your alternative.
What's your reset button, Victor?
I totally agree with Raphaël. First of all, it needs to be someone from out of the caucus, because if not, Quebecers will feel like it's the same old story that goes on.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that Geneviève Guilbeault will be a candidate. And I'm sure she will be the Chrystia Freeland of the CAQ. Because even if she's a candidate, she's going to have a good race, but she won't win.
Good one.
So, personally, I'm not scared to give you two names that I think are going to be part of this conversation.
Well,
I know that he has said no many times, but there is no way for me that Mario Dumont is not going to be on the phone tonight with a few people. I've heard this very often, that he was not going to push François Legault out of the party. But as the founder of the ADQ, and knowing that he still has a very good attachment with Quebecers, it's impossible that people from the CAQ won't call him to see if really he's not interested. And the second name is Guy Cormier. The name was going out for the Liberals. He spent a few times this Christmas time making some calls and talking to some people. He decided yesterday to say that he was not going with the Liberals, but he's the kind of candidate that can make a change, because the next election, if CAQ wants to win it, it has to go on economy, and I'm sure it has to be someone from the right side of the spectrum, because right now, I'm not sure that the fact that François Legault decided to make so much noise on identity, French language, or immigration is the right choice for the next election. And if you look at the numbers, yes, he needs to win some votes on the PQ side, but he certainly needs to win some votes on the conservative side, because the PCQ is at 16%, and on the Liberal side, where they are 24%. So if you have a leader that, for example, Liberals would have dreamed about, it could be a very interesting race, and we are seeing maybe some changes that can bring us to a CAQ government or a minority government on the next election.
Now, does Mario Dumont leave a cushy media job? Let me tell you something. I know all about not wanting to leave cushy media jobs, so we'll see if Mario Dumont chooses
True.
that. But,
Elias, when you did politics in your life, there's no way I'm going to believe the fact that he's not going to think about it.
It's in his blood.
Politics is like heroin. You can get out of it, but you always want to go back.
Oh boy.
Je veux aussi remercier tous les citoyens de la circonscription de l'Assomption qui m'ont fait confiance pendant toutes ces années. Et c'est quand même pas rien ce qu'on a réussi. Là, je vois Brigitte qui est là. Ce qu'on a réussi, je Je pense entre autres aux 7 premières années. Écoutez, c'est pas rien là, de dire en 7 ans, former 2 gouvernements majoritaires, là, 7 ans après la création du parti. C'est tout un exploit.
That's the Premier, François Legault, announcing his resignation, thanking the citizens of his riding and looking back at his political successes over the years. But today, of course, the focus is on his resignation. Raphaël Melançon, Victor Henriquez, sticking with us for analysis, and we will stay on air in light of this major breaking news, François Legault's resignation. We'll stay on air until 12:30 today. 514-790-0800. We're also taking your calls. I want your reaction to François Legault's resignation. Let me get one caller in right off the top here. Angela, how are you feeling right now?
Hi, Elias.
Hi.
I'm very happy he's leaving. Good riddance. It doesn't mean that the next person that's going to replace him will be any better.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that he's a Quebec Trump that's done everything possible his way and has completely disregarded the rights of Anglophones and totally disrespected the Anglophones. Again, with this business of protecting the English language, especially in Montreal, is BS because it's not true. And
well,
that's
Angela, let me tell you something. I get the sentiment, but as you reference off the top, you sort of have to be careful what you wish for because you never know what's next. If it's a PQ government that's even more hardline.
Right. Well, listen, you know what? Yeah. The CAQ is just a pseudo-Péquiste anyway.
Well,
they were, the only thing they didn't say was we want to separate, but it was in the back of their minds, I'm pretty sure.
Angela,
and that's it, Elias. I'm celebrating. When I got the notification on my phone, I was at Costco, and I said, hallelujah.
Angela, thanks for the call. Hope you got something good. Hope you got a roast chicken and a hot dog at Costco. There's Angela right there. Let me go to Roy here. Hey, Roy, what do you say?
Well, I'm a physician, and I ran for the PCQ in the last election.
The Eric Duhem Conservatives? PCQ?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I ran in NDG. The CAC tried to steal some of our policies, and they did none of them. He's been a disaster for the province. He's been a disaster for the unity of the province. I'm glad he's going, and my opinion is that the party itself will fall apart. It was a very loose coalition held together by Legault, and I don't see how this is going to work. I mean, this latest thing that he did with the doctors has been an utter disaster, and I think that's part of the reason he's gone.
Roy, great insight there, and our panelists are nodding with some of your comments here, so thanks for the call, Roy. On the falling apart front, let's go to Victor here, because I know you've got to leave us at noon. What do you think on that note? Could this be the beginning of the end for the CAQ?
Certainly. It can be the beginning of the end because, and we talked about that before, if they choose a leader that doesn't show real change, there is no way they're going to win next election, and probably they will have no M&A after that election. And if that happens, it's basically the end for them. So that's why it's going to be very important for them to choose the right leader and to choose the right place in the political spectrum. Are they going to have a leader that is a right-hand leader? Are they going to have a Péquiste? Are they going to have a liberal? What kind of nationalist they're going to have? You know what's great about having a coalition is that you can model the coalition to the needs of Quebecers. So now we're going to see if they model the coalition to the next leader and what kind of leader they're going to choose.
What do you say on the front on the notion that the CAQ could implode now because of this?
Well, it could happen even before the next election because the CAQ right now is at risk of high tensions internally with the internal fight that's coming up with a leadership race. I was part of this government for the 2 first years of the first term of François Legault, and I remember that everybody within this government were coming from other parties. Most of them were coming from either the PQ side or the Liberal side. So some of them are going to pick sides with the leadership race. So there will be major tensions in this party within the next few months with the leadership race that could be indeed, I don't want to say suicidal for the party, but it's there's lots of risks at the moment that this party will not survive the leader. Legault brought people from all walks of life around him. And in the end, the question is, was it just a one-man show, or is it going to survive its leader, its founding leader?
And I wonder if this is a moment. Now, listen, I was gonna say how many M&As the CAQ has, but it seems like every day there's one less. Like we see, like somebody gets kicked out or someone resigns, that kind of stuff. And I'm just wondering if this is a moment. If you're a CAQist, but you're like, oh, wait a minute, you know what? I'm finding myself agreeing with the PQ more often. Or you know what? I find the CAQ has gone too far towards nationalism. Maybe I'll find a home in the Liberals under Charles Milliard. Could we see a peeling off over Victor, let me ask you the last question for you. Could you see that, a scenario where you see some of the current CAQ M&As look at other parties?
I don't think they're going to be much to do that. And I don't think the parties are that open to having CAQ M&As into their party. Maybe one or two, but not more than that. Raphaël is right. The next race is going to be pretty tough because there are so many different opinions in that party that we're going to see what happens. But it could be, it could implode inside of the party. Now, that's why I think that the next leader of the CAQ is outside of the party today.
Victor, listen, I want to thank you for coming on this morning. Appreciate your time with the breaking news, okay?
Thanks for the invitation, Elias.
Victor Henriquez from Public Strategy and Conseil. Let me squeeze in one more listener before we have to get to news. I'll head over to Roger in DDO. What do you say, Roger?
It's about time he's out. I mean, he inherited a bad situation, I agree, but they just threw it into the ground and they diverted plain divisive politics the whole 8 years.
Roger, thanks very much for your thoughts. Mary's in Lachine. What do you say, Mary?
Thank you for taking my call. I'm so happy. I'm so delighted with all the bills that he passed, and I hope that Santé Quebec is going to be destroyed and it's going to be changed for a better healthcare, better education. All the universities going to be changed, with all this language loss and everything. I feel like he completely want to destroy Quebec.
Mary, listen, going on the lines of be careful what you wish for, do you have any worry that the next person could be even more hardline?
Well, we have to be careful, and we have to pray that the next person is going to be better than him. I thought about that, but, the way he did, the way he passed the law, and I feel like he's another Trump. I really agree with the previous caller.
C'est pas une question d'orgueil, c'est une question de moyens. Créer de la richesse, c'est pas une fin en soi, mais c'est un moyen qui est nécessaire pour être capable de se payer des programmes sociaux, puis aussi pour se permettre d'être plus autonome face au reste du Canada. Donc, une de mes grandes fiertés, oui, puis je vais le répéter, c'est que depuis 7 ans, le Québec, quand on regarde la croissance économique par habitant, quand on regarde la croissance du salaire moyen, oui, depuis 7 ans, on a réussi à battre l'Ontario puis le reste du Canada.
François Legault there talking about his record over the last 7 years, and one thing he says he's proud of, and that is wealth creation in Quebec, particularly up against Ontario and the rest of Canada. Continuing coverage here of the major news of the last hour or so, and that is the resignation of François Legault as leader as leader of the CAQ. He will stay until the CAQ chooses its next leader. So François Legault will remain premier and leader of the CAQ in the interim until that party chooses a new leader, but he is resigning and he will not run in the next election. Let me open up our phone lines at 514-790-0800 if you want to tell me how you feel this morning with the news that François Legault is resigning. Are you happy about it? Do let me know at 514-790-0800. 800. We're expecting Eric Duhem, leader of the Conservatives, to join us any moment now. We'll get his instant reaction as well. Raphaël, I know over the newscast, our minds are going in various directions on what's next for the CAQ and who leads it here. Opportunity. Where do you see the opportunity here?
Well, opportunity, we were talking off the air about Mario Dumont, and I would really see him as the potential savior that this party needs at the moment. They need, as we mentioned with Victor just a few minutes ago, they need probably someone who comes from the outside world of politics, well, currently politics. Mario Dumont has been for a long time in M&A, as we know, and the leader of the former ADQ, but he's been in the media for 15 years, and this is someone who's a very big name amongst Francophones.
Yeah.
And this could really be a major game changer, not just for the CQ, but for all the parties in the province. If ever someone like Mario Dumont were to become the leader of the CQ, I mean, I wouldn't bet $100 on the PQ's fortunes.
We are just finding out here that we do have Eric Duhem, leader of the Conservative Party Quebec, on the line. Mr. Duhem, Eric, thanks for hopping on this morning.
Always a pleasure.
What's your instant reaction here to François Legault's announcement?
Well, first off, I think there's not a lot of Quebecers who are surprised today. Even yesterday, you saw the Palace poll coming out. The CAQ was battling for the 5th place with Quebec Solidaire at 11%. It's the most unpopular government we had in our lifetime. I mean, it's not surprising. That being said, he chooses moment, and it's not all black and all white. If there's one thing that François Legault did successfully, is to get Quebecers out of the old referendum debate. He was able to put people who voted yes historically and who voted no historically and make them work together to make sure that the interests of Quebecers were put forward. And I think that that's something that it's probably his main record. And unfortunately, the Liberals and the Parti Québécois want to go back in the old debate. But I don't meet any Quebecers who are nostalgic of the referendums of 1980 or 1995.
Do you view this news as opportunity for you and your party? You referenced the poll where the CAQ was in last. Yeah. You are now in third in that poll.
Yeah. No, it was a good poll yesterday. We're battling with the Parti Québécois in Quebec City almost neck and neck. We're second in all the regions. And in Montreal, obviously, the Liberals are leading. But, the outside of Montreal, the only party that could beat the Parti Québécois is the Conservative Party of Quebec, and that for us is a very good news. And the party, historically, there's like two François Legault in politics. There's a François Legault in opposition from 2012 to 2018, and there's a François Legault in power. When François Legault was in opposition, I was one of those who was supporting him. He was the guy who wanted to cut tax to reduce the size of the state, to add the contribution of the private sector in healthcare, who wanted to exploit our natural resources, including our natural gas, who wanted to decentralize. Like he had a very conservative agenda when he was in opposition, and then he arrived in power and he did something quite different. But so I think that those who are the original CAQ and the former ADQ people who are part of that coalition, I think many of them that we have to court them now and try to bring them over in the conservative ranks.
What is your message to those disaffected CAQists who don't like the path that party went down as they're about to pick a new leader? What is your message to them before they do that?
Well, I think that they tried to have a coalition between the left, the right, the federalists, the sovereigntists, everybody in the same party. Obviously, it didn't work out quite properly. Us, we have a clear coalition of people who want to downsize the state, give more freedom to Quebecers, and we're welcoming them on board. I mean, that's going to be our clear message. The next election is going to be, essentially, outside of Montreal, is going to be, between the Parti Québécois, who wants a third referendum, or the Conservatives, who want to review the model, the status model in Quebec, and that's going to be the main issue, I think, for the general election in next October.
Do you have some worries, though, as well, like under the scenario where the CAQ gets some sort of new dynamic leader from outside the party, that would be a serious threat to your party?
Well, it's difficult to know what does the CAQ stand for, especially now that Legault is not there anymore. It's a party that has, the only thing that sticks them together is Legault. When Legault's gone, you have people who have complete opposite perspective on almost every single issue in that caucus. So no matter who's taking the lead of the party, it's going to be a huge challenge. And I can't see someone who's going to be able to keep them all together, honestly.
It seems like you feel that your party is more representative of the CAQ's original vision than the CAQ is now.
Absolutely. I mean, the CAQ did a way left turn. they were flashing on the right and they turned left when they arrived in power. And I think that those who are true small C conservatives now only have one party, and it's the Conservative Party of Quebec. And it's not surprising that, our stronghold, where we would win all our seats right now if there were an election, is in Quebec City, which used to be the fortress, the stronghold for the CAQ. So we're going to win the seats that the CAQ had the highest percentage historically. So it's we're replacing the CAQ and at their heart, and I think that's a good message for us. But then we need to expand elsewhere in the regions of Quebec and even in Montreal.
Monsieur Duhem, thanks for your time this morning and hopping on this day. Appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Eric Duhem, leader of the Conservative Party of Quebec at 514-790-0800. Taking your calls on the big news this morning about François Legault's resignation. Are you happy or not? Ahead of the phones, let me just get your reaction, Raphaël, to what you heard from Eric Duhem.
Yeah. Two things. First, I agree with Eric Duhem when he said that François Legault really opened a new chapter in Quebec politics. For 6 decades, from the 60s until 2018, politics was mostly about, are you a sovereignist or a federalist in this province? Other topics didn't really matter, whether you were left or right. It was just about sovereignty or federalism. So indeed, and what was at risk here is if ever François Legault were to remain as leader, was to go back to the old battle of, do we want a referendum or not in the next election? So hopefully, changing leaders will hopefully allow us to maintain a third way in Quebec politics, in our political landscape. Yeah. Where I disagree with Eric Duhem is where he said that from 2012 until 2018, Legault was ambitious and was more to the right, whereas when he came to power, he geared to the left. I would say that happened mostly after the 2022 election. So the second term to me was a missed opportunity. The first term, I was there at the time. The first term for at least the 2 first years before the pandemic, Legault was definitely ambitious at implementing change, the change he promised Quebecers. Now the pandemic came, and what happened is that Legault spent mostly all of his political capital. In politics, when you come to power,
there's a limit.
Yeah, there's a limit. You have a bank account full of political capital, and you spend it over some projects. And basically, he spent it all on keeping the province together in the midst of the pandemic. Yeah. So what happened afterwards is that it seems like the CQ had no breath left to tackle other issues after the pandemic.
And they failed at some of the big ones.
Absolutely.
Okay, let me go to our phone lines here. Scott is in St. Hippolyte. Hi, Scott. What's your reaction to François Legault's resignation?
How are you doing today, sir?
Good.
Well, I honestly, first off, I want to thank him for his public service. First and foremost, to take that on is no feat on in itself. So, but that being said, it's a good thing for democratic accountability and respect for public fatigue, and the opportunity for better governments and new ideas and reduce political polarization and tension. All that being said, I did think it was pretty funny you let the American ambassador on during his speech, which was great.
Yeah, because there's only one shot there, huh? When we found out this was happening.
We know what was more important at the time, so that was good. I'm applauding you at choosing the right choice, making the right choice. And another thing, Eric Duhem, all the way, bud, all the way. Take all those seats. Let's do it. Let's turn Quebec into the conservative nation that it needs to be.
All right, Scott. Well, listen, you're definitive there. Appreciate your thoughts. Let me go to David on the line. Hi, David. What do you say about François Legault's resignation?
I say it's time for Trump to just take over. This place is falling apart. Everyone just resigns because they make such a big mess. What are we doing?
Okay, so David, that scenario not happening at least anytime soon. What about the premier going away and resigning? You're happy overall?
What does it even mean? I'm not happy because I think it could get much worse.
Yeah. Well, listen, David, who knows what's next for this province and who will lead it next?
Unmistakably Canadian.
It's the music that raised you.
The artists raising the bar.
Hi, this is Brian Adams.
Hey, my name's Brett Emmons. I'm from the Glorious Sons.
Hi, I'm Nelly Furtado.
Made in Canada. The station that champions Canadian music.
Loud, proud, and all yours.
No passports required. Just press play.
Tap into Made in Canada now on iHeartRadio.ca
or the free iHeartRadio app.
J'ai été touché par la solidarité des Québécois pendant cette grande crise. J'ai vraiment même comme senti une complicité avec les Québécois qui ont accepté de faire des sacrifices. Je pense entre autres aux jeunes qui ont fait des sacrifices pour sauver des vies chez les plus vieux. Je pense que notre nation, c'est une belle nation, une nation très solidaire.
François Legault in his resignation announcement just over an hour ago, talking about the solidarity Quebecers showed during the pandemic and the sacrifices many Quebecers had to make, thanking them for that. Of course, the breaking news, as I get a text message saying, Elias is on the air past noon. What is going on? So if you're just tuning in, François Legault has resigned. 514-790-0800. We're taking your calls. I want to know if you're happy about this news, and we'll get some more analysis from Raphaël Melançon in just a second. But to our phone lines again, Steve's in Magog. Steve, what do you feel about the news?
It's good news. I'm happy about it because he became synonymous with the incompetence of the CAQ party and the millions of dollars of taxpayers' money that they lost or that they wasted with SACLIC and Northvolt. But we need a party like the CAQ that's nationalistic, and I think that's what helps. That is good for Canada. That helps keep Canada together when the Francophone majority feels represented. Mm-hmm. But we also need a party that's going to protect and promote the French language more intelligently, and also, take it, not in a way that hurts the English community.
Well, Steve, everything you're saying there leads me down the path that what the CAQ would need here is a true outsider, because they can't afford to have someone who's got the stink of the wasted money, the scandals like SACLIC. That's not the face I think they can deliver to Quebecers for another election. So a whole lot to think of. Very, very good, interesting perspective.
So the
Steve.
Liberals could fill in that space.
And we'll see. I mean, Charles Milliard. That's a big task, of course, if he does indeed, as a lot of people expect, get that. We have reaction here from Charles Milliard, who many believe will be the next leader of the Liberal Party. Here's what Milliard had to say moments ago.
Well, obviously, this is a political earthquake today. Mr. Legault has been our premier since 2018. He has been in the political field for the past 25 years. So honestly, today, for me, it's hats off to Mr. Legault. I think he has been very much involved in the structure of Quebec for the past decades. So I think we need to recognize that. And he has been also our premier during the pandemic in 2020. So this is something that he should be proud of.
Reaction from Charles Milliard, the front runner there for the Liberal leadership. Robin is in Sherbrooke. Hi, Robin.
Hi.
Hi. What do you say, Robin?
So, well, I'm not going to comment on the political parties, but I'm pleased to see one of the old guard men, old style, moving aside, make way hopefully for somebody younger and more open-minded. I live in a riding where we haven't had several younger women as our representatives, both at the provincial and federal level, and I think it gives us much better representation, and they've been much more collaborative in representing us.
Well, this certainly is an indication of the old guard stepping aside, especially in Quebec politics. Robin, thanks very much for the call. I want to read one text message here, which leads me down a path, Raphael, that we need to discuss. So we got maybe this is tongue-in-cheek, but Ian writes us this note. So I'm guessing that Bernard Drinville goes back to the PQ. Now, this leads us down a path. The CAQ does a leadership race, and they pick someone who leans far more federalist. Mm-hmm. So let's say, again, a nationalist, but federalist at the same time, someone who's known like that. Just like François Legault was known, he's a nationalist, but, he was a Péquiste and he was a sovereignist. So they go down that path. Where does that lead the members of the CU, the cabinet ministers, the other MNAs that are clearly on the sovereign? If they had to vote, they'd vote yes. Yeah. What does that do to the party?
Well, it's always the risk when you build such a large coalition around one single leader is that you bring people from all walks of life and different views on Quebec politics and Quebec's future. And of course, if ever, because we know some of them, let's say Sonia Lebel, Geneviève Guilbeault are known within the party as the more, I would say, quote, hyper-federalists of the caucus. So if ever one of them were to become the leader of the CQ to replace François Legault, what does it mean for those who came from the PQ? Yes, there's Drainville. There's Jolin Barrette.
So I was thinking about that. Like Simon Jolin Barrette, Mr. Constitution and law after law after law. If the CAQ ends up with like a guy that flashes the red, like this is how I hear the CAQ talk about it. Flash du bleu, flash du rouge. If they have a flash du rouge kind of guy, Jolin Barrette, it seems like he won't fit in that
Jean-François Roberge. Mr. Identity, Mr. French language. So if ever the CQ were to be leaning towards a more moderate position in terms of identity with a new leader, what will Roberge do? Will he go back to the PQ?
It's so many doors open up here. Lee on the text line writes this: let's start the parade. But with Legault and his reckless spending, I guess we can't afford a parade. Arthur's in Beaconsfield. What do you say, Arthur?
Hello. So I was looking at it from a West Island, not a West Island, an Anglophone, allophone federalist perspective. And for a long time, I was hoping the CAQ would be resurgent, because I think, safely have to assume any voters the CAQ draws again will be largely from the PQ, not very likely many from the Liberals. Because what we wouldn't want, other than a CAQ government, is a PQ government. I think a resurgent CAQ drains the PQ and gives the Liberals a chance to slide up the middle.
Yeah, listen, Arthur, I think your reasoning is pretty sound. I just want to bring people back. Remember when François Legault was first elected, remember his messaging to Anglos. Come join us. Be part of the coalition. Fully bilingual website for the CAQ back in those days, right? And they wanted Anglophones to be part of that movement. At some polls, the CAQ was polling 30-35% amongst non-Francophones. He blew all of that up. Yeah, he blew all of that up. But you wonder if the next guy or woman will try and make a similar effort. Arthur, thanks for the call. Let me scooch over. Stan, quickly here, what do you say on Legault's resignation?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say, as an individual, I thought he was a very decent person. He meant well with whatever he decided when he came to the doctors to get more people with doctors, to have doctors, but he used the wrong tactic, the stick approach, not the carrot approach. He handled the pandemic, I think, in a very professional and comforting manner, even though many people disagreed about his curfews. And he proved to Quebecers that politics does not have to be polarized between federalism and separation. And the final thing I want to say, he really thought, and I remember he said it many times in the National Assembly, he thought he would be the eventual replacement for the PQ. In other words, the PQ without a referendum, but he didn't succeed in that, in what he wanted to do.
Stan, great call, to the point, appreciate it. Also on the text line, I don't want the PQ. I liked Papa Legault. That goes to that side of the side of François Legault that I think people found comforting. To wrap us up here, Raphael, in the 30 seconds we have left, what are you looking at over the next few days?
Well, who's going to be on the starting blocks? We know that Geneviève Guilbeault, she was already preparing a potential campaign already in the past few months. Is Jolin Barrette going to run? Is Sonia Lebel going to run? Will we have outsiders interested? So all eyes are going to be on potential successors of François Legault. It's a major change that's happening today. Huge. The whole political landscape of the province will not be the same in the upcoming months. Everything's on the table at the moment for the next election.
If you thought you knew what was going to happen in Quebec politics, all of that went out the window today.
I love my job today.
It's fun. It's fun. Totally is. I want to thank you, Raphael, for staying with us during this breaking news.
Pride is like love. You feel it in your heart. iHeartRadio, Canada's #1 streaming app for radio and podcasts, including iHeart Pride Canada, your favorite hits and must-have party bangers, plus personalized and curated playlists like Back in the Day Pride.
Come together, celebrate love.
Take Pride with you anytime, anywhere. Just ask your smart speaker to play iHeart Pride Canada. Stream us on your phone or listen now at iHeartRadio.ca.